Well, good afternoon. I'm back in my tropical playground. Tropical death ground. Everything here is death, 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 death. And you sort of laugh at it as you go. Well, you probably don't laugh at it at first, but once you start to accept what it is, like the action of acceptance takes the edge off, completely takes the edge off. It's like, well, I have to lay this vessel down at some point, so we can call that death, but without believing in death, because we actually know that we're eternal somewhere, and we're just playing this game of thinking that we're bodies. But the actual fact of the matter is we actually do know that we are eternal. That knowledge is within us and hidden. I don't know why I do this when I talk about the mind. Hidden in the cosmic mind, let's say, not particularly the brain. But it's a done deal. So the mind knows it's already awake and merely daydreaming, or merely, what would you even call this? Fantasizing, projecting out a world in which to look out from behind the eyes of an avatar and pretend that it's somewhere else. It's quite amazing, really. Like, when you think about it, it's like, holy crap, I'm doing this to myself. It's quite amazing. I've been doing it so long I've forgotten that I'm doing it to myself, but now I'm starting to remember again. I'm starting to wake up to the power that my mind has to be able to manifest a world separate from God, seemingly, as an idea in my mind that I can believe in and get the results of that belief, because my mind is all powerful. And the fundamental law of mind is you believe in what you create. And even though manifesting a world isn't exactly creating, it's kind of miscreating or making, and there's a very clear definition on the two in the Course in Miracles, the difference between making and creating. But if you look at the idea of it as miscreative, as not in a bad way, but just in error, it's like, oh, I've been wrong, and there's no there we go, nice mountains. There's no consequences to that other than the immediate belief in consequences, which because I like to believe in things and like to put meaning in things, I get the results of that, and it kind of sucks. We call that karma, the cause and effect relationship of of projecting outward from the mind, the denial of the denial of reality. And I've met a lot of people who tell me, oh, I'm not in denial of God, I believe in God. But of course, that's very all well and good, but a belief in God is not a relationship with God. A relationship with God is knowing God, right? Coming to know God. And we're always improving on that relationship. It's got to be consciously processed. It's got to be consciously atoned for, as an idea of relinquishing the miscreative elements of the temporal experience and allowing the Holy Spirit to rectify, if you like, or reinterpret the defense mechanisms that the mind has put in place to protect the body, because protecting one's own creations is what we do. They're imbued with eternal life, and we know that, and that is the protective attribute of reality. It's eternal. It can't be changed or destroyed or anything else. And God creating in its own likeness, in its own image, not really in its own image because God is formless, but God creating in its own likeness, everything within the creation of God, or everything in the creation of reality, or everything in creation is eternal, like God. So it's hard to talk about it. You have to have an experience. You have to have the experience of your true universal celestial relationship with all things, one with all things. And then everything sort of falls into place just miraculously. I remember my dear friend Josie, when we were at the academy together, one day she said to me, the only thing that people are really looking for is to fill up this emptiness inside, and she called it the God hole. And it's the one thing, it's the only thing that will fill that emptiness. And if you're someone who is acutely aware of that emptiness or that calling to feel fulfilled, or you're looking for something, you don't know what it is, but you keep going from one interest to another interest, from one country to another country, there's this thing that just won't let you stop. And I've met many, I was like that, but I've met many people also like that. And I think it's by necessity. You have to realize this emptiness. You have to realize this calling. And then when you realize it, and when you have a conscious, it's not that you really realize, you have to realize it extremely consciously. I don't know if there's levels of consciousnessly, but you've got to let it affect you. I mean, I imagine right now there's people watching this video and they're going, oh yeah, I feel that, I feel empty inside sometimes or whatever. And I feel alone and I feel whatever. But it's got to be overpowering. It's got to be, it's got to just, like, it calls to you, and you have to answer. And that answer, of course, comes from the prayer of the heart. Here I am, Father. And like whatever that is for you, for me it was messy. It was a it was a horrible meltdown on the dark night of my soul. But that emptiness drove me from church to mosque to temple to citadel to you name it, monastery to, I went everywhere looking. I knew it had to be something spiritual. I knew it had to be something holy, but I equated it with an external search. I had a strange feeling I'd convinced myself somehow that there was someone or some sort of teaching or some sort of thing that was going to fill me up and quench that inner desire for fulfillment or inner desire for purpose. And of course there wasn't. I did eventually find my teacher, Ted Poppy, and was very grateful to find him. Everything he said made perfect sense. But it took a lot, and I had to feel it. I didn't know at the time I had to feel it, but I had tried literally everything to find where I fit in the world, to find my place, to find peace, to find something that made sense of why I was even here. What am I even doing on the planet? Sitting in front of Mount Blackwood making a video, it seems. But that's okay now, because I'm fulfilled in here. I have no more quest. I go where I'm directed, and at the moment I'm directed to sit here and make this video, and at the back of this abandoned pub. Well, it's not really abandoned, but it's closed down, and the owners have very kindly let me camp here, use the shower and toilet, etc. It's a miracle. People just open their hearts, and the next little mission, the next little assignment opens up and takes place, and you find yourself just being part of it. I often tell people not to quit the job they hate. A lot of people say to me from time to time, I really wish I had your lifestyle. You don't seem to be attached to anything, and you just seem to drift here and there, and everything supports you and whatever. And yes, it does. But that's the result of many, many years of very hard work to get my head right with the Lord, so to speak. But it's also like the result of giving up preferences, giving up ideas about where I think I should be, or who I should be helping, or what I should be doing, and just making myself available. And so I tell people often, like, I'll have people write to me. I had someone just the other day that I'm working fairly closely with, even though we're 20,000 kilometres away, but working on Facebook together. And she said to me several times, I just want to quit this fucking job. I hate my job. It doesn't, she has to change who she is to be there and all that sort of thing. And it's like, well, I'm not going to ever tell anyone don't quit your job, but if you're quitting your job because you're running away from the energy, you're running away from a situation, like then really, I mean, if your interest is God and if your interest is spiritual pursuit, then learn to use the relationship of that work situation, because everything's a relationship. Learn to use the relationship of that work situation as a forum for where forgiveness is needed in your own life, and transform it, change it in your own mind, what it is that you think. And there was this one person in the workplace who was always a bigot and a know-it-all or whatever it was, and it's like, there you go, look at that. That's a reflection of something you don't want to look at in yourself. And it's not easy to swallow those bitter pills, but you have to do it. If you don't do it in your workplace and you just run away and try to find a clear space where you can study or do something, even spiritual study, then the energy of that, because it's your mirror, your reflection of the mind that you've projected out, the denial you've projected out, it's going to show up again in a doubly more painful way in another situation. So you may as well deal with it where it is, and then no time is wasted. We're learning to use time. We're learning to use time to our advantage. We're learning to collapse time by taking responsibility for the cycles of the repetitive cycles of relationship foibles that keep showing up. That's one of my teacher's words, foibles. Ted used to say it all the time. I've kind of taken it on, foibles. Sounds like something out of the Three Stooges. The foibles of the Three Stooges or something. But it's like, learn to use the relationships you're in. There's no time like the present. You may as well jump in the deep end and get straight into it. I mean, what are you going to do? Get it wrong? You've been getting it wrong all along. So what's a bit more effort put for a different purpose going to do? You never know, but just let it be miraculous, right? Let it be miraculous. Let your mind become miracle-minded. And I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to change this situation. I don't know how to heal my mind. Lord, I need a miracle. And then get the hell out of the way. Don't put your own 2 cents worth in about the miracle that you want. If so-and-so reacted differently or acted differently, I'd be happy. Forget about that shit. That's just bargaining. That's not true prayer. True prayer is gratitude. True prayer is, thank you, Father. In this situation with such and such, I want to offer you all my heartfelt thanks and mean it. Probably you're going to want a miracle first. But when you can see that all things are actually leaning towards you to support you, and that if it's not a blessing, it's a lesson, you can learn to be grateful for the lesson. Because the goal is God. What more worthy goal could you possibly have in the world than self-realization? I've told you about it. It exists. It's a real thing. You're going to set yourself something lower? Not self-realization? Maybe just a mansion in the Bahamas with all the money you need and a fully stocked bar and some playmates. That probably would have been a dream of mine at one stage many, many years ago. But don't run away. It's just energy. Don't run away. There's a thing on my truck actually here. I'll see if I can read it. Oh, here we are. By Lao Tzu. It says, stop leaving and you will arrive. Stop searching and you will see. Stop running away and you will be found. There you go. Old Lao Tzu. Or as my daughter would say when she was a baby, Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu's on my arm somewhere here. There we go at the back. He looks like a Han Dynasty warrior, but anyway. I've had a few people keen to come to Australia, and I'm always saying yes to that. If you want to come, yes, absolutely, come and hang out. If you feel the call, the urge, the prompt. Annie, who's been in quite a few of my videos, Annie and I were at the Healing Centre together many years ago. Annie's a very powerful association, very beautiful and very assertive in her determination that the truth not be heard in a muddled manner. And I really love, like, there's different associations in this. So Jesus had his 12, and each of those 12 would have had their own personal characteristics and attitudes and personalities regarding the embodiment of the teachings that he was offering them. And Annie is definitely one of those 12, and she's also had several experiences of hearing the voice from heaven tell her that she is his beloved son in whom he is well pleased. I haven't heard that yet. I'm thinking that would be lovely to hear that, and incredibly powerful. But I tend to get things more like, Dave, just sit down, don't worry about it. Which is cool, because I know I'm included, you know, like I know I'm included. I might not be the sharpest tool in the shed. But I know for a fact that by God's grace, I can lead anyone to the precipice, and that's my job. That's it, to lead you to the place where you no longer need my help. And it's a funny job, like the job. Imagine if you went to the employment office and you're looking up, oh, Saviour of the world. Lead people to the edge. Sometimes push them. There would probably be a lot of people that would disagree with me about that job description and simply say, well, you know, you lead people to the edge by being the example of something that they can aspire to within themselves that's going to require momentous amounts of faith. And it does. I mean, I don't know if there's a scale for faith, but it just seems to be like never-ending. These incredible leaps, these incredible offerings. Like, it's so beautiful, it's so perfect, it's so... Once you see that every problem in your life is a divine setup, every problem, every grievance, everything is a divine setup where you can learn to use the same situation differently to become more peaceful and more happy. Like, if you could turn your foot around and kick your own ass, you would. I'm a child of God, and so are you. Here, let's just stand here all day in this field and kick each other's ass until we get it. Anyway, don't run away. Make the confrontation, you know, hold yourself to account for the energy, for what it is. You don't have to label it. I mean, you may have already labeled it. You may have looked outside there and into the world at someone or something that seems to be triggering you, failing for a moment to remember, oh, hang on, my trigger is in my own mind. That's where I need to heal it, not out there with that person. But stand there for a second and own the trigger. What do I see in that person? This person is reflecting back to me something that I obviously have judged, or I wouldn't be upset about it. I must have thought that things should look a certain way in this dream. I must have thought that I was entitled to something in the dream. I must have thought that I had a say here. It's like, no, nothing. Let go. Be in the world, but not of it. If you desire something in the world, it can and will hurt you. It will come around, back around, and bite you in the ass. Kick you in the ass. Out Blackwood. if you're someone who likes to look up on Google Images, Google World, I'm sitting at the back of the Cuttable Hotel in the not quite the shadow, I guess, but in the lee of Mount Blackwood. Not a very big mountain, more like a bump, but everything's always leaning towards you to bless you. Everything. You may find that difficult to believe when you're in the middle of your own kerfuffle, your own foibles. You'll be like, that Dave's off his head. This can't be leaning towards me to bless me. And it's like, well, actually, yes, it is. Doesn't matter how violent, how ugly, how smelly, how... There's an opportunity in everything to learn to see things differently. And if you were able to backtrack all your decision making that led you to the point of your foible or your kerfuffle, you'll probably actually be able to see where it is that you started doing it to yourself. But luckily our mind is of, or maybe not luckily, but our mind is of the forgetting. So it's like, I don't remember how 3 years ago I made a decision that led me to this place here and now where I'm sick and tired of my boss and my workplace and my everything. I seem to recall being incredibly grateful for just having a job at the beginning. What could have possibly gone wrong? Wouldn't have anything to do with familiarity breeds contempt, would it? There's these funny little sayings, like that's something your grandmother would have said, familiarity breeds contempt. You know, so that's why you got to stay in the flow. You got to keep changing, keep moving, keep just saying yes to whatever gets presented. As soon as you bog down, as soon as you try to make a stand, as soon as you try to tell yourself, yep, this is how it is, this is what I want it to look like, then look out. It's like trying to tell the river of life, just stop here. I'm sick of floating down the river. I just want to stop and look at this view for a minute. As long as you're not running away, you've got to learn to use the energy. Use it, use it, use it, use it. And you've got to feel it, you know. Look in your mirror, look at that person, that situation, that event, and be like, why do I get so shitty about this person or this situation? What is it that triggers me? And it's like, it's the know-it-all. I'm using the example from the other day, but it's that person is just a fucking know-it-all. And sit in that know-it-allness. Sit in that reflection for a minute. Let yourself feel it. Let yourself feel how angry or how pissed off you get every time they want to tell you something. And allow yourself to go into it. Allow yourself to sink into it to the deepest depth that you possibly can, so that you can get all 10 pounds of that shit and offer a 10-pound prayer. I need a miracle. It's no good if it's just lip service. I'll say this 1,000 times. If your prayer is only lip service, it's not that it won't be answered, but the integrity of your prayer is so thin that when it's answered, your awareness of the answer is going to be equally thin on the ground. You're not going to be aware of it. You probably won't even remember in 3 days that you actually asked a prayer. Some people like to keep a journal. Prayed today. Day 2, waiting for the answer. And that's a good thing. Wait for the answer. Don't improv the answer yourself. Just wait for it. Let it be miraculous. You're learning to be what? Miracle-minded. Miracle-minded. You're going to hate it. You're going to hate that idea. I have to be miracle-minded. This seems such a simple problem. I could just go over there and tell that person they're in my space, or I could just go over there and have a heartfelt conversation and try to fix everything and, you know, and get them to see the wrong of their ways and all. People do that. When you understand that there's nothing out there, there's no one out there There are figures in your dream that you've populated your world with by the power of your mind using a miscreative principle or a miscreative belief that has established a kind of a founding principle for all things on earth, that all things die. But it's actually false. And we're right back where we started again. You're eternal and you know it. You're a child of God, and somewhere inside you know it, and that's the experience you need to have. That's the experience you've got to pray for. Father, I want an experience. And you're entitled to it. It's only arrogance to deny your entitlement to the kingdom of heaven when God himself holds it out to you freely, just for the asking. Anyway, I love you guys. I've noticed less and less views on the videos, and I totally expected that. I love how Jesus's prophetic teachings are so on par. So what do they call that? On fleek something? Where Jesus says 2 in 10,000 will hear this. Everyone loves the idea of it. It's at the start, and then I know there's a whole bunch of guys that don't watch the videos and whatever, that are doing stuff and whatever, but as a general thing, it's like, wow, there's a witness to my transformation. And you got to expect that. Everybody enters in where they're at, and I feel honestly blessed if I get through the workbook with somebody. You know, if there's this kind of association that is prepared to go through the rigors of doing those lessons and putting in the effort to maintain that brotherhood, that congregational kind of, I mean, I know we're online and everything, but it's just such a blessing. You know, I mean, everything's a blessing. Everyone that watches a video, leaves a comment or a like or whatever, that's a blessing too. I mean, I totally love how this message can be received so simply, without the need for religion, without the need for ritual and dogma. And I guess in a certain sense these videos are kind of ritualistic, because I'm really only saying the same thing over and over. You're whole and perfect and I love you. You have nothing to say about it. But there's some kind of something, like I'm having dinner tonight with my brother Dean, my spiritual brother Dean, and Dean is just beautiful. Dean came to me, and you guys are going to have these relationships for yourself, these salvation-based relationships that you get to represent the love of God on earth to your brother, to have it for yourself. And it is such a gift, you know. But, Dean is someone that we were working together intimately and closely, and like every other day for 2 to 3 years. And his mind has just morphed into this whole other liberated kind of, wow, it's just incredible to watch him go, you know, just beautiful it is. And I've had many people that I've been able to be blessed to be the witness to their transformation and the reality of salvation. You know, the proof of the pudding, the witnessing, it's just, oh man. I have a lot of people that'll come on with their one little problem and they'll ask me about it, whatever, and they'll have a breakthrough or not have a breakthrough or whatever. But somebody that just persists because they want to learn the curriculum, they don't just want a quick fix to their problem. It's like that and I think this is Lao Tzu. Oh no, it might be Confucius. Give a man a fish and he eats for a day, and teach a man to fish and he'll feed himself forever. You know, and it's like that is my joy, my true. I mean, everything's my true joy. But if I had extra joy, Alright, I love you. And coming at you from Mount Blackwood in this beautiful part of the world, in this subtropical, there's a sugarcane farm behind. There's usually horses and cows and things just there. Peace.